So welcome everyone to Condé Nast College Virtual Open Day for MA programs. Welcome to the session wherever you are joining us from. We are in London in general, but each of us currently is working from their own location, so we are remote from the office. And I have with me today my two colleagues. So my name is Sandra Buonfrate. I'm the marketing manager for Condé Nast College, and I have with me my colleague and my manager, Agata. Agata is the head of student recruitment and marketing in the college. Hello, Agata.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Hope you're having a good day.
And I also have with me Johannes Reponen. Johannes is our global academic director for Condé Nast College, and he is in charge of all the postgraduate courses as well as many other things. Hello, Johannes.
Hi, Sandra, and hey everyone. Thanks for joining us for this session.
Sure. So today you will hear from us talking about all the MA programs. So whoever is here for any other programs, we will only cover MAs. So all the postgraduate provision Condé Nast College has. And first we will run through some general information about the college before we dive into each section of the courses. So we have the creative courses and the business focus courses, and Johannes will run through those. Hopefully we'll be joined later on by our admissions manager colleague James. James is at another event, so hopefully he will manage to join us. If not, we can talk through the admission slides on behalf of James, which will explain a little bit more our admissions and entry criteria. So without further ado, Agata, over to you.
Thank you, Sandra. So welcome and thank you so much for joining us for today's session about our specialized master's courses. We have 8 different specialized courses. 7 of those masters we run ourselves in-house at Condé Nast College. One of the masters we're running in collaborations with our partner, Richmond American University in London. But we'll get to those in a second. So we're hoping that we're providing world-class fashion education through opening the doors to the unique world of excellence and creativity, which frankly Condé Nast as a company and the various brands and the magazine titles that they publish are a wonderful example of. And you can see here the latest, well, maybe not the latest, but the September Vogue cover with the supermodels from the 90s that we can all recognize. And it is here because Vogue, the same way as Tatler, GQ, Love, Wired, New Yorker, Vanity Fair, and many more are part of the Condé Nast stable of iconic titles that they own and publish. The Condé Nast is also operating from over 30 markets across the world. And what does it mean for you being a student with us is we are part of the larger Condé Nast network. That gives us a opportunity to bring in the talents from those markets into the classroom, to bring in the talents behind the scenes from those titles into the classroom, to talk to you about their jobs, to talk to you about the different opportunities available within the fashion and fashion media industries, as well as we have up to date and the latest lists of skills, needs, and requirements that employers in those particular markets might have, or what is needed in those particular markets. And therefore, we can prepare you appropriately for your next steps after completing the master's with us. But we are not just the Condé Nast company or a part of their larger network. But we are also a higher education institution. Therefore, we have a fantastic excellent and award-winning academics that also have industry experience themselves. Many of them are working as consultants. Some of them worked full-time in the industry previously before they moved into academia. So they not only know the theory and all of the models behind what they're talking about, but they actually know how it ends up working in the real life. So they can give you a very apt advice. We also have a fantastic access to the Condé Nast industry links. We bring industry speakers regularly into the classroom. We bring company projects into the classroom with some of the most recognized brands out there. You can network with those people, you can talk, you can really we can make sure that you're quite visible to them. We also have a fantastic graduate exhibition at the end of the of your courses, where we invited the whole array of industry people, including quite a few from the London Fashion Week. We can offer a boutique experience because we are a small college, and this is something that we'd like to keep that way. It allows us for really in-depth and quite a lot of interactions between the students and the academics, and with you and your peers in the classroom, which really provides for a fantastic, builds a great close-knit community, but also provides for this really transformational experience while studying with us. There's one-on-one career support for our master's students. And the courses, as you will see, they, focus from fashion communication, media, lifestyle, luxury, and many other subject areas. We value creativity because, as we are a creative college. We come from design, we've come from fashion, media design. So we do appreciate the creativity is very important, and it's key to innovation. Also, we trust each other and we trust our students. That's how we build a community, which then hopefully allows you to really sprout your wings and become your true self and discover your strengths and your weaknesses, and find yourself reflected within our community. As mentioned before, we give a very big push and weight on industry access and industry interactions. At the end of the day, you will be going into the industry. We want you to know what sort of people expect there, what is it that they want from you, what sort of level of quality they're looking for. So it's both from bringing them into the classroom, as well as for us to have as a sounding board, like this advisory council, that then can help us and can advise us on the development of new courses, of provision of education, and what would be appropriate, looking at the future of the fashion and fashion media industries. And you can see some of the very well-known people on the council, like Victoria Beckham, Fabian Baron, Donatella Versace, and many others. So this year, it's our 10-year anniversary. We've been in existence since 2013, and we're proud to say that we've had over 3,000 students now coming through our doors. We currently have 34 programs on offer, and this goes from short courses, weekend events, through online, and then the full-time face-to-face degree courses, like our bachelor's honors in fashion communication and industry practice, as well as the specialized masters that we will be talking about today. And we're very international. We've had over those years over 100 different nationalities represented, and currently in this year cohort, we have about 50 different nationalities represented. I'm proud to say that the classroom is very diverse. You will not end up in a classroom where there's an overwhelming number of one particular nationality. It's actually a fabulous mix that we have in a classroom that will make you feel very much at home, because everyone will be from somewhere else, and it's very much reflecting really the makeup of London population. We're based in central London at Bloomsbury, in the Bloomsbury area at Bedford Square. And this is one of the prime examples of the Georgian architecture in London. Apparently, this square is one of the best preserved from that era. And we are in one of those buildings. We have a lovely on-campus kitchen cafe. We have a student breakout area. There's a big library. There's a well-stocked photography studio. So there's everything that you might need for your education. And we also have fantastic neighbors. We're actually, our building is ours, and then we're neighboring with the Sotheby Institute of Art, which is fantastic. This is how the actual building looks like. You can see the entrance to our building, and then as you go upstairs, as well as you follow, there's more classrooms, a breakout area, and so on. There's only so many pictures we could include, but I think you can get a bit of a feel of how it looks like. And back to neighbors. So our closest neighbors is the Sotheby Institute of Art. You'll be able to mingle with those students as well and share some of the spaces, which is quite nice. We also share the library resources, so it gives you access to more, I guess, art also focused literature. But also on the square, we have the I'm sorry, I can't say it. The Association of Architects. We have a Birkbeck College as well as the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. So what it means, again, there's more students out there that you can network with, that you can make friends with. And we have a lovely garden square inside of the square where we're all based, where there are regular events for everyone who works as well as live at the square, which is a very nice way of meeting your neighbors. And this is how the neighborhood looks like. You can see there's loads of museums, galleries. There's, of course, great restaurants, cafes. There's plenty shops as well as places for you to go out for lunch, as well as the little garden that you can walk around. So it's a lovely area. And I think that's me for the college introduction and the Condé Nast introduction. And now I'm going to pass it on to Johannes to tell you all about our amazing specialized masters.
Perfect. Thanks, Agata. We can go straight into it then. So as Agata already mentioned, oh, sorry, I need to say something about myself. I always forget about this. So my name is Johannes Reponen. I'm the Global Academic Director here at the Condé Nast College, which means that as part of my remit, I oversee all of the courses that we have here in London. But of course, we also have a sister college in Madrid, where we also offer MA degrees as well as shorter courses as well. Before this, I was the director of postgraduate studies. So the postgraduate program are very familiar to me, and this is the area that I mostly work on at the college. As Agata already mentioned, we have 8 MA degrees that we run at the college. 7 of these are, if you like, our MA degrees, and these are validated with University of Buckingham. What that means is that we're using the Buckingham framework for the more academic kind of framework that we're using to create these courses. But of course, all of the studying and all the delivery takes place at Condé Nast College. And then we have a degree that we run with Richmond American University in London. And we'll talk about that later during this presentation, but the model here is very different to the courses that we run in the college. And when it comes to our MA degrees, we broadly categorize them into two different areas. We have our media-focused MA programs, and we have our business-focused MA programs, and we'll start off with our media-focused programs first. I'm terribly sorry about this diagram, but it was my attempt to visualize the journey for you, so bear with me. All of our MA courses, they are 12 months, so students start in September and they finish in the following August or following September, if you like. Each term is 10 weeks long, and during each term, students do at least 2 different modules or projects or units depending on where you've studied before and what you're used to. One of the unique features that we have at the college is that there are some modules or projects where students work collaboratively across the different courses. So for instance, our MA students, and actually we've just started our academic year and we're on the second year of this new year, and our media-focused MA students, so those studying styling, media strategy, fashion journalism and editorial direction and creative direction for fashion media, are actually doing a module together, which is called Fashion Media Futures, which is all about thinking about the future of fashion media. And it's a really, to me, that really sets the scene. And I'll talk about this more when we come to our business courses. But, we put a lot of emphasis on this idea that we are, fashion industry is a small industry. And you will always be collaborating with other people in other disciplines. So we really want to nurture that kind of sense of collaboration. But equally, we are a small community, and Agata already mentioned that we're a boutique institution. For us, it's really important that all of our MA students get to know each other, so that because you're really kind of starting to build your lifelong networks as part of your studies. Equally, during term one, all of our MA students, so that's all of our MA master students, but also our business students, start a module called Critical Research, Understanding Audiences, which is, I would categorize the more academic course that or project that students do during their studies. But this is, again, a project that all of the students take simultaneously. So again, it just allows students to network, get to know each other as well, and work across the different disciplines. It's not until term 2 and term 3 where we really start to focus on those subject-specific or program-specific disciplines. So, and I say that because, if you're coming to study with styling with us, or journalism with us, or media strategy, you don't necessarily start those subject-specific skills during term 1. You'll start those in term 2, when the styling students start to work in the studio, the journalism students start to do writing and content creation, where the creative direction students start to think about multimedia production. So really, the terms 2 and 3 are very much focused on those subject-specific skills, and the course then culminates into the final master's project. So really, this is the biggest project that our MA students do with us. It's a self-directed project about an area within the discipline that they've studied. It's the biggest piece of work that the students do during their time with us, and there is very much a practical part to it, as well as an academic part to it, which is hopefully really the showcase project for you then when you go on and hopefully go into the fashion industry, that you can showcase the skills that you have. And of course, Agata already mentioned that we have a graduate exhibition at the end of the course, and this is where our students exhibit their final master's projects as well. So that's just to give you a bit of a visualization of the overall journey. The first course that I'm going to talk about is our MA Fashion Journalism and Editorial Direction course. This is really for those of you, if you want to be a fashion editor, a fashion journalist, a fashion writer, you want to go into working in magazines or publications, because magazines, they still exist, but it's not the only way to create media. Or you are interested in content creation, which is of course something that media organizations do, but increasingly fashion brands are publishing content through a variety of different channels. So this is really the course for those of you, if you're thinking about, if you're interested in storytelling, because that's what it's all about. How do you tell stories? How do you communicate fashion, primarily through written words, but also through other communication means? In terms of the course and the specific things that you'll learn on this particular course, obviously you need to think about the evolving landscape of media and the role of content creation within fashion industry. I've already mentioned this, 20 years ago, media was created by publications. Now, most fashion brands have got their media channels, they've got podcasts, they've got magazines, they've got their online platform. So actually these skills are very transferable and they're used across the industry. So it's really important to understand that. There are some core skills that wherever you work or whatever you do, you'll need to understand. It's how do you do research? How do you tell stories? What are the ethics that underpin things like content creation and journalism? You'll need to have a market awareness. You need to understand how to pitch ideas and how to edit things. And really, this course is all about, you developing your voice, your style, and your position and your knowledge base within fashion and also lifestyle areas. And actually, that's something to know. We have the word fashion in most of our course titles. I always say that it's not a fashion with a capital F, even though we've got a capital F on this slide, but it's a small f. Fashion means so many things. We have students on this particular course who've interested in or who've developed their skills to do with lifestyle journalism or beauty journalism. It's such a growing space. So when we're talking about fashion, we don't just mean clothing. We think about it as a much more bigger, holistic kind of term. In terms of this course, and actually something to note, all of the pictures that you'll see today on our slides are work created by our students. So earlier, previous slide, there was a magazine that one student has put together. On the journalism course, which most people think about that it's just about writing. Well, yes, writing is a big part of that, but there are so many other ways to tell stories as a journalist these days as well. So during this particular course, we think about audio, and students produce podcasts. Some of the podcasts that you'll see here, and they are actually available, I think, online if you want to listen to them, some of these as well. Students think about the role of visuals, and they work a little bit in the studio as well. And yes, the written word is still relevant, and there's quite a lot of writing as part of this particular course as well. And like I said already, journalism, it's mostly associated with writing, but also, there are loads of other skills that you'll develop as part of this. So managing content, commissioning content, directing content, all of those are skills that an editor would need to have, or indeed somebody working within content creation. For each course, we'll give you a bit of a snapshot of the types of people that have previously lectured on the course. Some work more extensively, and some just come in for one-off lectures to sort of share their insights as to what they've learned. And again, like with these slides, I'm not going to name drop all the names there for you. But what I wanted to say is that, and again, it mirrors something that Agata already mentioned. For us, industry access is a really important aspect of what we do. And if you're thinking about coming to an MA study, that means that you've already completed your BA degree, or you're probably currently doing your BA degree. And if you've done it in a big, let's say, traditional institution in quotation marks, the way we approach teaching is quite different. We don't have for instance, for a module, there will never be, for instance, just one academic who will teach the whole module. When we are curating these modules and putting them together, for us, it's really important that we bring a variety of different perspectives, because there is not one way of being a journalist. Like, we have people who are editors, people who write for newspapers, people who write for magazines, people who focus on sustainability, people who work for independent publications. And we're trying to always think about, how can we bring these different perspectives to show you that there is multiple ways of being a journalist or working in fashion. So that's really a theme that kind of runs through all of our courses, which is hopefully reflected on particularly even this small snapshot of people that have previously, for instance, taught or lectured on this particular course. In terms of careers prospects, and again, this is the number one thing that I always say when I interview students. You need to think about your MA degree, not just you need to think about it as part of a longer-term strategy. So what is it that you wanted to do 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line? And therefore, what are the skills that you need to develop? So what is it that you're traveling towards? You're potentially doing an MA with us just for 1 year. So it's a small time, but it's a significant commitment. So think about like, what is it that your ultimate goal? So for instance, with this particular MA, our students tend to go into, working as writers or journalists within staff or freelance positions within both media brands, but also within fashion brands, because as I've already mentioned, fashion brands need journalists and storytellers also. You might be interested in content creation, particularly opportunities that are created within social media or digital. And equally, you might be interested in those, the role of an editor, for instance, which is very much about content management, commissioning, and editorial development. So there's a number of different routes that you might consider after this course. I think the next course is Creative Direction for Fashion Media. So this is, and actually we've got some really fantastic films, all again created by our students for different modules that they've done during their time with us. So if the journalism course is very much about storytelling through words and audio, Creative Direction for Fashion Media is about visual storytelling, media branding, and multimedia production. So this is really for those of you who are wanting to develop your visual communication skills to do with things like branding and visual direction, art direction, and those sort of things. And actually, something that I should have mentioned in relation to our journalism course, but I'll mention it now because also it applies to our creative direction course. For both of these courses, and we'll cover this as part of the admissions as well, we're looking for people who, we will be asking to see examples of your work. So for the journalism course, it would be things like written pieces. Here, as you can see, the work that our students have done, it uses a lot of different tools like filmmaking. We don't necessarily expect you to have all of those skills yet, but we would like to see our applicants have already some kind of that they're exploring things like visual image making, visuals, storytelling, etc., etc., etc. And that's what Creative Direction for Fashion Media is all about. In terms of this program, it's very much focused on you developing practical visual communication skills, bit of photography, user experience design, graphic design as well, really with the view of becoming an innovative storyteller, not with words, but with visuals, and being able to work across multiple platforms using things like communication design, interface design, and art direction skills. It's about that kind of holistic understanding of a brand. It's about having a really strong understanding of visual culture. It's really about having an amazing understanding of the power of image, to where a piece of moving image might be strong in telling a message. Ultimately, also the role of a creative director is somebody who has to work with other people, because you can't do everything. You can't be a filmmaker and a photographer and a stylist and an art director. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to develop students who have, or rather practitioners who have this ability to manage, who understands the visual side of things, but can also work with others in realizing that creative vision, whether it's to do with the visual look, tangible feel, or user experience around fashion narrative. And again, here the work that we've got on the screen is actually for a project that we did with Stella McCartney, where students were challenged to create social media content for a brand. So again, Agata already mentioned how we like to bring the industry into the classroom, and that's just a great example where we're bringing a live project for the students to complete, and through that, not only learn really relevant industry-focused skills, but also get that really kind of important CV development and portfolio development of work that they can have to demonstrate what they're capable of. again, few people that have previously worked and currently work with us on this particular program. For this program, we like to bring in people who are creative directors, art directors, graphic designers, who work in brand consulting or filmmaking, or even as a design director, to really teach students some of those core skills within the industry. In terms of, again, thinking about the long-term plan, this is where, for those of you who are thinking about, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily graphic design, because graphic design is a very specific discipline, but actually there's a lot of having a really strong graphic design skills and developing those during this particular course are quite key, because they really lay the foundation of understanding of what does an art director do, or what does a visual director do, and going to work in some of those sort of departments. Magazines have creative directors. There are creative departments within, fashion brands. So people who are in charge of things like the creative or visual image for a fashion brand. So it's to do with things like advertising campaigns or multimedia campaigns. Those are the sort of positions our students go on to do. And equally, creative production is a really important area. So working for still or moving image or kind of producing fashion content is somebody that the types of skills that you will need to develop as part of this particular program. Next program, fashion styling. As it says on the tin, it's about styling. Really, again, I use the storytelling metaphor here. So journalism is to do with words. Creative direction is about visuals. Fashion styling is about visuals as well, but also oftentimes it's about the story that you can tell through clothing. And it's the type of skill that you need to have when working for a fashion publication, where a promotion of clothing through styled shoots, things like that, is such a key part of that communication. But equally, fashion brands are constantly having to think about how do they tell a story about their latest collections. How is it presented? How is it styled for across things like advertisement, to things like e-commerce, to things like social media. Equally, a really big sector that has emerged, particularly during the last 10 years, is the role of celebrity and working with talent. Again, here, the role that clothing plays in portraying or telling the story about a personality, what they're interested in, what they do, or where they sit within the kind of field of fashion and creativity and film, is actually a really important part. And these are the sort of things that we are trying to develop through this particular course. So how do you think about styling in context of print, digital, but also experiential fashion, which is to do with working with people? Again, this is a very practical course, in a way that it's about getting your hands dirty. I always talk about how people have this idea that styling is about selecting clothes. That's probably 10% of it. This is a discipline where you have to have amazing people skills. You have great networks. You have to work with other really talented creatives, because this is, styling, you can't do it on your own. You're always working with a model. You're always working with a photographer, probably with a makeup artist, set designers, etc., etc., etc. So actually, you have to have a really good people skills. But actually, on the course, really, with what we're trying to develop is, very much the practical skills that you need to have. So, what are the skills that you need for styling? To do with things like concept development, shoot production, location, dealing with designers and PRs. How do you collaborate with these other people? How do you develop a brand identity or a creative brief or respond to a creative brief with a really innovative visual outcome that can be commercial in a commercial context or in a creative context, working for a brand, working for a media brand or a personality. You will have to do a lot of testing and experimenting in a way that a good writer has a voice and a handwriting. I think a good stylist has a voice and a handwriting. It's something that's recognizable. Same thing for good fashion photographer. If people who are really good at it, they have a distinctive style. You don't even need to see the image credit to know that it's by a certain photographer or a certain stylist. So you'll need to start to think about, what makes you distinctive and unique, and what is your handwriting as a stylist. And in a similar way that journalism, creative direction courses, our MA's fashion styling course is also what I would call a portfolio course, where you will be challenged to do a variety of different assignments that help develop your skills, but equally are going to be hopefully a key part in you developing your portfolio. Because, for instance, for a stylist, portfolio is the most important thing in order to secure work. Clients will always ask to see, what have you done before? What is your handwriting? And they're going to make decisions based on that. So that's something that you'll need to be doing as part of this particular course. Again, just to example a few people, mostly stylists, but equally filmmakers, art directors, multimedia creatives and photographers who work with students on this particular program. But again, this is just to give you a bit of a snapshot of the types of people that that work with us. And again, thinking about the exit or the sort of end goal, if you like, from this course, you might be continuing to develop your career towards editorial roles, whether it's working for independent fashion brands or image consulting. Visual content creation is a really important part, either for a fashion or media brand. But equally, as I've already mentioned, styling and image making roles within industries such as entertainment, music, lifestyle, even sport is such a key space, and for the something that you might be interested in going into after completing this particular MA. And then last but not least, our fourth media-focused course, which is slightly different from the other courses that we've talked about. So the media courses that I've talked about, I think they're very practical. This is as well, but they're very much focused on kind of those practical skills, whereas this is for those of you who are interested in going into media, but perhaps you're interested in the business aspect of media. And here's the example that I always use in talking about this course. So if I take Condé Nast for example, as an example, Condé Nast, you'll know all the publications that are part of the brand, Vogue, Vanity Fair, Glamour, etc., etc., etc. And if you then think about the types of roles that exist within that brand, it's you'll know that there are journalists, there are stylists, there are editors, but in actual fact, most people who work for Condé Nast work in the behind-the-scenes role. There are departments for things like commercial, for business development, for management roles, thinking about advertisement, thinking about business strategy, thinking about innovation, thinking about social media, thinking about branded collaborations. So there are a huge amount of roles that are there behind the scenes that make media happen and are part of the business logic of media. And for those that are interested in that part, then I think fashion media strategy could be the course for you, which is very much focused on the business aspect of working in media. So the types of things that our students do learn as part of this course is, for instance, how to create a business plan for a new fashion media brand based on strategic insights. The reason why we do that is to get students to think about, developing a concept. thinking about the market potential for that, to do audience research, to think about how you visualize it, to how you brand it, to how you communicate it, to what are the operational aspects behind that. So it's sort of an indirect way of kind of thinking about all of the things that make media happen. We think about business management and leadership. Students learn about brand theory and marketing theory, and also how to develop audience research skills, which is such an important part of understanding what makes media a business. It's very much understanding the commercial aspects of fashion media, and also how that is evolving. So again, if I think about an example like Vogue. Vogue started off as a publication. It has existed as a publication up until mid-90s. Then came online. Now that brand is so much more. It's social channels. Earlier in September, you might have noticed that Vogue did a huge event called Vogue World. So it's also experiences. You can have a Vogue sweatshirt. So it's also retail. It's so media brands are no longer just magazines or online. They're doing a variety of different things. Condé Nast has a property portfolio. There are cafes. There are all sorts of things that are happening within media, and how media is evolving. And again, this is a really key a course where you can develop the understanding of how media is moving forward. Again, a few people that have taught or teach or come to lecture on this particular course, and we've had people like Vanessa Gingori, who's the Chief Business Officer for Vogue, to people like Aidan Gary, who used to be the Director of Operations for the whole of Condé Nast, getting insights from the sustainability team, but also people who work in things like marketing or business development or branding contribute to this particular course. And in terms of the career prospects, and I already mentioned this, it's those managerial behind-the-scene positions within media that are things like, advertising, strategy, partnerships, audience research, business development, or indeed you might be interested in developing your own fashion or lifestyle media venture as a result of this course. Although actually, interestingly, last year we had a student who came to study with us on the 17 scholarship, who really spent a year on developing a really strong understanding of the business of media, and has since gone on back to their native country, and was immediately offered a position as an editor for a publication. And that was actually partly because they interviewed the publisher for that publication as part of their final master's project. So it's a really great example of how what you do as part of your MA studies can really have a long-term impact on your career development. But equally, that despite the fact that you might develop certain skills, like this course is very much about business-focused skills within media. This particular student already had a lot of experience in working in media and writing in journalism, so that should just make them so much more desirable as a candidate by having those extra skills and understanding, like what is the business perspective of making media, because ultimately media is a business. I think next up we've got a film.
We're going there now. So this is from the exhibition from, I think, a couple of years ago, right?
Yes. The music is probably not coming through, but hopefully it's a bit of an insight into our graduate exhibition and the way in which our students display their work at the end of the course.
It's interesting because this year it was quite a different weather, I think, during our exhibition, because people were was warm and no one had jackets on. And of course, it's in a different building. But you can view the latest exhibition highlights on our YouTube channel. It's already out there. We've literally just published a couple of days ago. So if you'd like to see how it was, how it ran in the new building that we're in, you can check our channel.
And then we'll go on to talk about our fashion, business, and entrepreneurship focused programs. And we have 3 of these. And I think we'll start off with our MA Entrepreneurship. Oh, no, we don't. We start with the structure, which is a structure that you've seen before. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about this because the structure is very much the same as what I already talked about in terms of the media program, where there are modules again for the business programs where students study together, and for that is the brand communication and marketing strategy module. So it's really all about business focused courses, and that includes MA Entrepreneurship, MA Fashion Communication, and MA Luxury Brand Strategy and Business. Understanding the principles of branding and how marketing strategy works is really underpins all of our courses, and that's where students study together. And alongside that, students also do this critical research module, which is where business students study alongside MA students as part of developing our postgraduate community. And then term 2 and term 3 are focused on developing those program-specific skills. And then the course, in a similar way to media courses, culminates into the final master's project that students complete during term 3 and term 4 that they exhibit as part of the final master's exhibition. And the first course that we're going to talk about is our MA Luxury Brand Strategy and Business course. This is really for those of you who are interested in the luxury sector to start with. Doesn't necessarily mean fashion. We have a lot of students who've focused on areas such as beauty, wellness, hospitality, entertainment sector as well. But it's really focusing on the luxury sector. And the key areas that we focus on is things like, how do luxury brands work? How do they develop strategic communication methods to reach their audience? What are the business models that they use to operate? And, how do you make sure that you communicate luxuriness in the most relevant way, using the right tools and the right channels for the audience that you are after? And really, we'll talk about, again, the kind of end goal, but really this is for those of you who are interested in going into the luxury sector, but particularly within roles such as business development, PR, communications, marketing, and branding. So during this particular course, it's really developing a kind of critical thinking skills and applying those to real industry scenarios. And, we've talked about this already, like, for instance, the importance of things like live projects. So for this particular program, we have one whole module where students work with a live industry client that sets a project for them that students then need to respond to. So it's really about, therefore having to apply kind of, or think about themes and relevant things that are happening within the industry, or challenges that people within the industry are dealing with, and having to develop skills as to how to respond to those through marketing, communication, strategic, or kind of through the use of branding. It is very much about, because this course is very much focusing on the luxury business sector, having understanding of audience, how to do audience research, and how to investigate those shifts in the culture of luxury are going to be really key. Having an underpinning understanding of, luxury branding, luxury marketing, and luxury communication skills is going to be really key here. We spend a bit of time on thinking about the business models behind luxury, and that's not because we're not trying to develop this is not an entrepreneurship course, but it's really important that our luxury brand strategy and business students have a really good business head, that they understand how the luxury sector works from a business perspective and what are the new opportunities there that luxury brands could capitalize on. And therefore, it's all of these, I think, really important, relevant things that not just the luxury industry, but actually the whole of the personal industry is having to think about. Areas like sustainability, diversity, future-proofing. Luxury sector is quite a crowded market, and it's an incredibly competitive market. So how do you develop skills that enable you to contribute to making a business a success, but also, making it sustainable and relevant for the audiences? One way to, again, I like to tell the story about our different courses is that most of the media courses, except the media strategy one, they're very hands-on in a way that people are, writing articles, creating images, whereas luxury brand strategy and media strategy, they were much more strategic. That's where it's about thinking about the bigger picture, developing the strategy, coming up with the communication plans or marketing plans, but not necessarily executing those. Again, a few examples of people who've contributed to this particular program. People like Louise McCabe, who works within corporate social responsibility. I talked about the importance of, for instance, sustainability. People who work in consulting, people who work in brand development, in communications, marketing, and also in events as well. And as I already mentioned, in terms of, again, thinking about the long-term plan, here, for those of you, if you're thinking about going into, or you're interested in working within the luxury sector, and particularly in those head office positions within marketing, PR, promotions, or communications. Equally, you might be interested in working for a creative PR branding agency that particularly caters for luxury brands. Or equally, some of our students on this program, they kind of have approached it as a sort of opportunity to kind of develop a business idea, but through that, communicate how they develop, a communication strategy or brand identity for a luxury brand, and through that, develop those skills that enable them to move on to the industry. Next course is our MA Entrepreneurship, Fashion and the Creative Industries, which is really for those of you who are interested in fashion business or fashion entrepreneurship. The way we've designed this particular program is we're kind of mimicking the way in which a business works. And we actually invite students to come to us potentially with an idea and to use that year as a business incubation space or kind of research and development space. So students start by doing, understanding branding and developing, how to develop a marketing strategy, how to do audience development. Then they go on to think about, what makes a creative entrepreneur? How do they see themselves as entrepreneurs? What are the types of businesses that they want to maybe develop? Moving on there to learning about things like financial planning, and developing a one-year plan for a brand. And then the course really culminates into the final master's project where our entrepreneurship students develop a 3-year business plan alongside all of the assets and that they need to have in order to communicate what their brand is about. So it's sort of built to mimic that idea of starting a business. Now, you don't necessarily have to start a business at the end of it, or you might not even want to go and create a business. But if you're interested in working in fashion business, you're developing all of those core skills that underpin that understanding to do with finances, to do with, strategy, to do with audiences, to do with markets. And actually the example that we have here on the first slide is a really fantastic one from a student from our first graduating cohort, Mathilde, who came and wanted to create a business plan for a sustainable jewelry brand that only uses recycled gold and lab-grown diamonds, and she's now stocked all around the world, I think including Selfridges as well. And it's just a really fantastic way of, actually somebody who came with an idea to the course and used it as a way to develop their business plan and then went on to launch it. During the course, and I think I already talked about this quite a lot, but really what we're trying to do is to challenge you to how to be a creative business disruptor, and create new types of fashion businesses. It's about understanding changing consumer behaviors. It's about thinking about how to offer new ways for consumers to purchase goods or services. It's about developing market understanding and customer insights. It's about learning about how to raise finances and funding, how to develop a financial forecasting plans, and culminating into writing a business plan for an idea that you might have. Again, few people that contribute to this particular program, who come from all sorts of different facets of the fashion industry, from entrepreneurs to people who are founders of their own companies, who come and share their insights with you. And actually, one of the unique it's one slide ahead. Sorry, we can go to the next one. Sorry. In terms of the kind of directions from this course, again, a lot of our students have gone on to launch their businesses, but equally it's those roles within business leadership and management positions that require entrepreneurial traits that this course is particularly kind of great for. So again, if you wanted to go into fashion business, this would be the course for you. And one of the unique features for this course is that during the final term, we assign our MA entrepreneurship students with a business mentor who supports, this mentor supports students throughout the creation of their final master's project, and when they're writing their business plans. They're really like a sounding board for our students to get our advice and expertise from people who've founded great businesses or work for really fantastic businesses, and can offer the particular types of insights that students might be after. Last but not least, our fashion communication course, which is really, I suppose sometimes people ask, like, what's the difference between this and the luxury brand strategy and business course? And actually, they're very similar. Whereas the luxury brand strategy and business course, there's more of a business focus to it, and it's particularly focused on the fashion sector, luxury sector. Our MA fashion communication is very much focused on the fashion sector and focused on communication. So those of you who are wanting to go into PR, comms, or marketing, this is the course for you. And actually, it's something that every single fashion brand needs. For instance, somebody who can tell the story, who can do public relations, who can do the marketing for brand, who can generate interest by, I don't know, through events, for instance. It's all about the way in which fashion is communicated through to audiences, and particularly most of our students from these courses go into areas like fashion PR or fashion marketing. As part of this course, we challenge our students to think about how do you positively contribute to shaping the future of fashion communication through a variety of different communication strategies. You will need to develop understanding of communication strategies and marketing strategies. understanding branding is really key, and kind of visual culture is really important as part of communicating fashion, because images are a big part of how fashion is communicated. With all of our courses, we always try to challenge students to think about the future, because we sort of assume that students are like, they're going to be making a bigger impact in the industry, not now, not next year, but 3, 4, 5 years down the line. So it's really about preparing for uncertainty, preparing for the future. And that part of that is thinking about like, what will fashion look like in 10 years time? What will brands look like? And how do we prepare for that with communication strategies, with the right marketing strategies, in order for brands to remain relevant? A big aspect of this course is also live industry projects. So our fashion communication students, in a similar way to our luxury brand strategy and business students, do a live project where, again, somebody from industry, a company, a brand, comes in and sets a live brief for our students that our students then need to respond to and develop a project based on. And usually our industry partners come in, to set the brief. They come in maybe a midpoint review, and usually at the end of the project, students present to the industry partners the ideas that they have developed based on the brief that they were set. Again, few people who contributed this particular program. Again, I said that there's a bit of a focus on the future of fashion and fashion communication. So we have people who are fashion futurists or futures researchers within creative disciplines. We have people who work in PR, brand strategists, PR and communication strategists who contributed this particular program. And like I said, in terms of the endpoint, for those of you who are interested in working in communications, PR, marketing, branding, and promotion within fashion or wider related lifestyle industries, this would be the way forward. Equally, a creative PR or branding agency might be your final destination, or where you want to head towards. Event sector is a really important one, because it is a way to communicate about fashion. But equally, working in trends, future thinking, and innovation within fashion communication is an important sector, particularly because it's something that we really challenge our students within this particular program to do. That's all of our MA courses. I will talk about our enrichment course in a moment as well, but there are a few things that I wanted to mention that are sort of overriding. They're relevant for all of our courses. So whatever you are interested in studying with us, these got a few bits of information that is useful for you to know. So as well as studying the core discipline, we place a really big emphasis on careers and placements and career development. And each term we usually have about 3 workshops or lectures that are focused on careers development. So we put quite a lot of emphasis on that. So if you think about it, students probably during the time that they study with us have something like I would say 15 hours worth of careers focused delivery, which is extra to what you're studying. Because we want you to be prepared for the life after. So it's about learning things like, and this sounds really straightforward, but how to do CVs and cover letters. Everyone, you probably already have this, but in fashion, these are very specific. There are very specific requirements that you need to understand. How to capitalize on your LinkedIn presence, how to understand your personal strengths, how to build your personal brand, how to do career planning. So these are just the few elements that we cover as part of our careers focused delivery. And something that I haven't mentioned yet is that as part of the final master's project, our students do have an opportunity to do a placement. So this is it's an optional opportunity where students can do a 2 to 4 week placement within the industry. And it's not something that we find we don't find these placements for our students, but it's part of the learning. So it's part of that process of starting to apply, negotiating, going to interviews. So you're actually developing skills that are relevant for your career development, as well as that kind of having that additional opportunity to get some industry experience that is really vital for your CV. Another kind of additional element that is a really important aspect for all of our MAs is visual communication. Whether you're doing entrepreneurship or styling, the ways in which you can communicate your ideas and your work is primarily through things like reports and presentations, to developing portfolios. And that's where having really strong visual communication skills are really a must, which is why we insist that our students learn InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator and Premiere Pro. These are industry standard tools that are, again, we're not trying to train you to be a graphic designer, but we want you to have skills in graphic design, in layout, having a good eye for visuals, understanding how moving image and web development works. These are really important skills to have on your CV as well, for going into fashion industry. And it's there for you to be able to develop a professional looking work as part of your studies.
Yeah.
Additionally, I wanted to mention that we have an initiative at the college called Vogue Education Presents. So we have a lecture program that takes place every week during the term, where we bring industry professionals to talk to our students. So these events are open to our MA students, but also our BA students, our foundation students. And it's really actually a nice way for every week for the whole of the college community to come together, where we have leading industry professionals, but equally people who work behind the scenes, names that you might not be familiar with, who come in and share their knowledge with our students. And, Agata already mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, is that kind of industry contact, being able to network and being able to know people who are actively doing this within the industry is such a key part of your studies as well. And alongside this, we have opportunities. So for instance, for each year, we recruit a team of students to work with us on our Vogue education program, where we have roles like host, event coordinators, people who focus on PR and social media, and art directors, where a team of students take an active part in shaping the college life and shaping the event program, and through that develop really valuable skills in event organization, in creative direction, in the discipline that you're here to study, that you can put onto your CV. And it's a really nice opportunity for a group of students to work with us as a staff team in running this event program. And actually, like last year was such a success. We had such an amazing team of students working with us who really made a huge impact. And actually, some of them got job opportunities through taking part in this particular event program.
Yeah, this one provides for fantastic visibility for any student that's involved in it, whether you participate as an attendee or whether you help it organize. Obviously, when you help it organize, you have so much more control over how much, you're kind of in front of the speakers and so on. So it's one of those great opportunities for industry experience and interaction. We also have Go ahead, Johannes.
I think one more opportunity to mention is that, and again, we always try to think about ways in which we can engage our students and ways in which we can create opportunities for our students to take part in the college life, but also to develop skills that are relevant for them. So as well as taking part in our Vogue Education Presents initiative, students can become part of our editorial team, and get their work published on the college editorial channels, write articles, do interviews, cover events that are taking place in London. So particularly for those of you who are already writing or interested in developing your writing skills, This is a really, again, another fantastic opportunity to take part in an extracurricular activity and develop your skills that are also fantastic for your CV.
And here is some of our alumni who graduated from the said master courses with us and are now in the world of work. So as you can see, we have Alexa here who did the MA Fashion Media Strategy. She's the one who developed the magazine that you looked at the covers of throughout the slides. And currently she's the senior editor at Panorama of the Americas magazine. She is from Panama. We have also Scarlett here, who is currently an editor Man About Town. Scarlett has now a number of different editorial positions since she's completed the, am I correct saying she did fashion journalism and editorial direction, MA? And she's really great contributor to the college, always comes in, support new students, does the talks. And of course, also she has this amazing experience now of being in multiple editorial positions. We also have Diane Chang. She's now a global marketing associate at L'Oreal. I can't remember from the top of my head what Diane has completed, which MA specifically. Then we also have Ko Cheng, who's the graphic designer at Hudson Wright Easton, but actually he works now at the Textile Exchange. So this is his older position. He's now at the Textile Exchange, and he does some really interesting project around the tracing of origins of materials, the fabrics that your clothes are made of. So to the point of actually tracing it down to the actual farmers who are farming the plants to then turn into those textiles. So that's really, really interesting. He did the I believe creative direction.
Yep.
Main creative direction. And then Saffron Earls, she's the style advisor at Hansley Menzie. I think she's done the fashion styling course.
Fashion communication.
Oh, fashion communication, my bad, I'm sorry. So there you go. Those are just few of them. In fact, we've had a lovely part of our 10-year anniversary celebrations. We have a fantastic wall displaying some of our alumni over the last 10 years. And we'll be covering in depth their profiles and interviews throughout the year also. So if you have a look at our website from time to time or the social media, you'll be able to see more of them coming up. And of course, we have the list of all our alumni with the positions on our alumni pages within the website, which I'm sure Sandra has now dropped into your chart, so you can go and view the pages. But all of it is to showcase that, we believe we're only as good as our alumni success. And as you can see, they are successful. They're achieving and fulfilling their professional needs in those different areas of fashion and fashion media industries. And we're proud to say that loads of them learn their core skills at the college. And then the final course, the MA Luxury Brand Management, which is now run in collaboration with our partner Richmond, the American University in London. Okay, Johannes, sorry.
Sorry, I was like, maybe you wanted to continue, because I feel like I've been.
I'm happy to cover this.
Far too long already, so.
I'm happy to cover this one, and you can just add bits and pieces where I missed. So yeah, so this is the collaboration between us and the Richmond American University in London. They are, I believe, for this particular course, you'd be based in Chiswick Park campus, which is not too far from central London. It is still London, Chiswick. It's just a part of London. So you'll be mainly based in that campus, and majority of the course is delivered by the Richmond academics on Richmond campus. And then once a week, you come to the Condé Nast College in Bedford Square, and we do a lot of kind of industry exposure with you and all sorts of different industry activities. So one of the things, of course, all the luxury brand management students participate in our industry speakers talk. There also would be having a specialist master classes, and as well as they have an opportunity, like also the rest of our students, I'm not sure if we mentioned it, to participate in the annual New York trip with Condé Nast, which is usually a 5-day-long trip to New York around the March time, where we take you out to show you not just to experience New York for the fun of it, but we actually take you to the Condé Nast headquarters in New York, which is based in World One Center. We also take you to various galleries, museums, pop-up shops, luxury brands to show you how those work and for you to experience and get inspired. And then also the Richmond students are also given access to the Condé Nast library, as well as the online resources as WGSN and Perlego, which our Condé Nast students also have access to. Am I forgetting anything, Johannes? Is there anything I should mention? The admissions is done through Richmond, and the Richmond, all of our masters with Condé Nast have a 1 point of intake in September every year. However, of course, you apply. We encourage you to apply as soon as possible, and we have now officially opened our admissions for September 2024, so you can go ahead and start applying. With the luxury brand management, you can start in September, as well as this one starts in January. So the next intake for this course is actually January 24, where you can apply into already, and all of the details are already updated on the website. And now I wonder whether we have any kind of pressing questions around the content of the courses or anything to do with courses themselves that we should be responding now on the forum here, Sandra, because I think you've been working very hard behind the scenes on those questions. Is there anything that we should talk about now before we move on to admissions?
I think I've answered most of the question, and I'm sorry for the delay in replying to some. They're quite elaborative questions. But I guess there were questions which repeated, such as how often the students are in the college, what are the timings of classes, which I think would be beneficial to hear for everyone. We could maybe speak about that, Johannes?
Yeah, of course. So for this year, our students, our MA students are in on Mondays, Tuesdays, and quite often on Wednesdays. We try to make sure that our students, the calendar is really efficient. When students come in, they usually have a whole day of activities in the college. So classes usually start at 10 and finish at 5. So I know that, for instance, at some institutions, there might be a lecture today and a seminar tomorrow and a workshop the following day. We really try to make sure that, the days are structured. They are quite, there's a lot to cover during the day, and we always also try to keep it sort of focused. So, Monday might be your styling or journalism classes or whatever you're studying, and Tuesday might be, I don't know, the critical research module where all of our MA students come together. The Wednesday might be careers classes and visual communication classes. So we're trying to keep it quite focused and quite compartmentalized, if you like. And we also like consistency. So we try to make sure that, each year we follow the same rhythm. So for instance, this year, MA students, this term, next term, following term, then, Mondays, Tuesdays, and mostly Wednesdays. And that's just to make sure that there's consistency, but also we understand students have other commitments, family, life, part-time work, whatever it might be. So just to make sure that students can plan around it. And one of the first things we do on the first week when students arrive is we look at the whole year calendar, because we decide the whole year. And we know exactly what is happening when, and we communicate that straight away to students in order to help students to plan their life around their studies as well.
That's correct.
I have a question here from Christina, which I'm not sure if I understand correctly. So Christina is asking, is it possible to write the master's project while also working in the industry and not losing any school's credits? Is there any chance of getting these credits from a company? Is it a usual practice or does it happen rarely? Is it worth trying to apply for job positions as a student at all?
Good question. So we have the work placement opportunity as part of the final master's project. There are a certain amount of hours that students are allowed to work as part of that, because there is a credit value for that particular element. Equally, a student could potentially work part-time, let's say 1 day a week, during their studies that could contribute to that particular final master's project work placement element. However, I think what's really important to emphasize here is that these are full-time courses. So while students are not in every day, we're still expecting students to put 40 hours a week into their studies. Some of it will be in the college, but equally there will be all of the project work that you will need to do, that you reading, exploring, thinking, writing, whatever it might be, that you will also need to do. So my advice would be not to I understand that sometimes you might need to have a part-time job, for instance, and it's important that you kind of find the right balance for yourself, but I have seen students really struggle and actually have a negative impact when they've tried to take on too much work, because, like I said, it's 12 months, so it's it's a relatively short time period, and there are the projects are they're quite extensive. It's again master's level study, so we're trying to get students to a certain level, so there's a lot of expectations. It's something that I would think quite carefully in terms of commitments, and it's something that we can always advise and work with students. So we have, during the term, we do things like personal tutorials where we don't talk about project work, where we want to have a check-in with you to see how's it going, what's working, what's not working, where do you think you need to do kind of improve your skills. And those are sort of really great opportunities for also to talk about things like how to find perfect study to life balance. And actually something that I also didn't mention is that from time to time we also put some extracurricular classes that are to do with things like and it sounds really kind of almost quite basic, but I can guarantee that these are really important skills, like how to manage stress, how to manage time. So I find that those skills are really important for students and for all of us, actually. And it's not something that you will never master. And we're trying to kind of help students with some of these sort of softer, transferable skills as well, that I at least think will make you more resilient and hopefully also a better practitioner in the long run.
Thank you, Johannes. We have, I feel, one more question that is specifically around the web. So the question is how interdisciplinary our courses are. So someone was wondering if when they are doing the MA Luxury Brand Strategy in Business, if they could also pick up, I guess, some modules from potentially styling, for example.
Good question. The short answer is it's not possible, because the modules run simultaneously. So whilst luxury brand strategy students have their classes, styling students have their classes, and journalism students have their classes. So that I kind of being able to pick a mix or join other classes, unfortunately, is not possible because of the way we organize the timetable. But also this is where really what I always try to sort of get students to think about is what are the skills that you are developing, and then where can you work with others. So styling is such a specific skill, and actually working with a stylist or collaborating with stylists, somebody who's actually actively developing those skills, will give you an advantage. So as opposed to trying to do everything, try to do the thing that you're studying really well, and then find other people who are developing expertise in their field and work with them. And together, you will make magic happen, I think.
That is true. Alternative is that you could potentially look into getting, additional knowledge around those areas if you were to do, I don't know, a 5 days off course in fashion styling, let's say, which is a intense 5 days, and you can pick up some of those skills. So there are ways of branching out into different areas, but probably taking on additional, I guess, courses, short courses, online courses, might be the way to go with that. Right, I see that we're getting into loads of questions around admissions and then to criteria. So I think, James, I will hand it over to you so you can start, so you can tell people what they want to know, basically.
Sure. Thanks. Hi, everybody. Sorry for joining late. My name is James. I'm the admissions manager at Condé Nast College. So I'm going to kind of keep this quite top level because, a lot of this will be variable and will be different for individuals based on their own circumstances. So I'll try and give you a kind of overview of some of the general entry requirements and the portfolio guidance and so on. But yeah, thinking a bit more individually, if you've got questions or there's things that you're not too sure about or that you want to ask about your own circumstances, then obviously feel free to get in touch with us by email or by phone after this event, and we can hopefully help you on that individual basis. So then looking at general entry requirements, I think the first thing that you'll need to consider is, the financial aspect. So all of our courses currently require self-funding, so students need to pay for their own fees. There are no student loans currently available for our courses. This may change in the future, but as it stands at the moment, the finances just aren't available to our students. So that's the kind of first big hurdle I think people need to grapple with and make sure that they understand. And students need to be aged 18 at the beginning of their course, or the beginning of the academic year, really, that they're coming to join us. So, yeah, which automatically means that you will be 18 as a minimum at the start of the course. So the standard entry requirements in terms of academic background, we're looking for a UK degree with a 2-2 classification or above. It can be higher than that, and US equivalents, we're looking at a sort of 3.0 GPA as a rough guideline. That will vary, again, depending on your own sort of locations and territories. So we can look at those on an individual basis and look at, where you've come from and how does it match to the UK education system. So again, if you've got questions around that, please feel free to contact us privately by email. International students are going to need to provide proof of English, generally with a degree that's been studied in the UK or another English-speaking country. So if you go onto the UKVI website or the UK government website and look at proof of English for visas, there is a page there which talks about majority English-speaking countries. So places like Canada and USA, or there's a list of about 15 or 20. If you have a degree that's been studied in that country, so you've physically gone to that country to study it, then that's enough to prove that English capability. If you've done a degree from a Canadian university, but you've stayed in France and you've studied in France, that won't meet the guidelines. So you need to have gone to that English-speaking country or majority English-speaking country and studied there. Failing that, you can do, or you will need to provide an English test. And generally, we say look at the secure English language test that the UK government give as the gold standard in testing for English. Generally, that's an IELTS test. There are others such as Cambridge and it escapes me now, but there's a list of about 4 or 5 secure English language tests that are approved not just for our admissions, but also for visa and immigration purposes. So if you don't have one, it's great to book one of those, because then that covers you for all bases and you won't need to do a separate test to get your visa. And the gradings on those vary. Generally, it's a CEFR B2 level that we're looking for. And to give an example of that, that's an IELTS academic UKVI 6.5. And that's the limit that we would be looking for in terms of what you're graded overall. But each element within that, so for example, speaking or listening or writing, can't fall below 6.0 grade. So each component needs to be a minimum of 6, and your overall grade needs to be 6.5. So looking at the next slide then, what we look for when you're applying is a list of documents that we need to see from you. So the online application is done through our website, and it's very straightforward. You can look at the course that you're intending to study, or the courses, work out which one you want to apply for, and then submit an online application to us. And we'd always say, even if you are considering 2 or even 3 MA programs and you're not quite sure where you sit, apply for the one that you think you're most interested in or most aligns to your career goals and your aspirations. And we will discuss with you at interview stage any other subjects or any other MA program that you're considering, and work out which one really sits best in line with what you're looking to do and what you're hoping to achieve. So we'd rather see one application that we can then transfer accordingly, rather than 3 or 4 separate applications coming into us. And within that application, we're going to need to see a copy of your passport. We're going to need to see proof of your academic background, or what you have of it so far. So if you're still on your undergraduate degree program, then we would take, transcripts or partial transcripts, letters confirming that you're still on program and still studying, or predicted grades or predicted results, anything like that. But if you have completed, then we would expect to see your certificate, diploma, or your or a transcript of your final results. If they're not in English, then we will need to see certified translations of those. And then on top of that, we're going to need to see, for some of our courses, examples of work. So the creative courses like fashion journalism and fashion styling, creative direction, there is an element, a required element of submitting examples of work. Within that, they will have to obviously align to the course that you're looking to do. So if you're looking to apply for MA Fashion Journalism and Editorial Direction, we would expect to see examples of written work predominantly. And that's not to say that you can't submit other types of work, but it needs to kind of align to the course that you're coming on to. And then that should be supported by a personal statement. And the personal statement is needed for all MA programs, so even the ones that don't require a portfolio of work. And that personal statement's really a kind of introduction to you, and I think the next slide kind of talks about that in a bit more detail. But it's our first look at you, other than looking at your name and your date of birth and your academic background in a list of a list of data. So what we'd like to see really is a sense of who you are and your personal identity, and a sense of what you're looking to achieve from the course. So you may not necessarily know exactly what career path you want to follow or what job role you want to end up in. But we'd like to see some kind of awareness of where you see yourself in the future and how you think the course is going to help you. And of course, with all of our courses, communication is key. So the evidence of good communication skills, of being able to demonstrate who you are, your ideas, and what's important to you, is going to be key for us to see as well. So for those creative courses, like I mentioned, there are examples of work that you need to submit and a 500-word personal statement. For the courses that don't require those examples of work or a portfolio, there is a slightly more extended personal statement requirement of 1,000 words or so. So that gives you a chance to kind of delve a bit more deeply into the whys, the wants, the reasons behind your decision to look at this college and the course that you're looking to choose. Our next slide then is specifically for international students. So MA students coming on to our postgraduate programs will be required to have a student visa unless you have residency in the UK or you have settled status or pre-settled status. There are a couple of conditions where that won't apply, but generally if you're coming from overseas, the likelihood is that you are going to need a student visa. A CAS number will be issued to all students who hold an unconditional offer from March onwards. and that requires you to get in touch with us. I mean, we will contact students who we think require a visa, but sometimes that information isn't always apparent to us in your document. So from that period of time, in March onwards, we would expect anyone that's not heard from us to kind of get in touch and say, look, I need to start my visa process. And we will put you in touch with our visa compliance team who will go through that process with you. But you can look at the international students page on our website in the meantime, because that gives a really good overview of the types of documents you're going to need, the types of information that we're going to require to see from you, and so on. So that will kind of set you up in good stead ready for March. Students will be are generally allowed to work on their student visa, but this is granted on an individual basis from UKVI. So that's not something we are actively involved in. So while students can work on student visas with us, that's not necessarily to say that you will be given a visa that gives you work rights. So the majority of our students do, but if that happens, obviously that's something you can bring up with the UKVI directly. But students generally are limited to 20 hours a week of voluntary work, internships, or any kind of employment. And then I guess the timeline really required is at least 4 to 6 weeks. Give yourself that amount of time to go through that visa application process. We start off in March. We would hope that most people who hold an unconditional offer would be looking to apply from that point in time to make sure that they've, again, set themselves up in good stead, plenty of time in case any other issues crop up. The application for a visa is quite complex in the UK, and it relies on a lot of documentation and evidencing that money's been in certain places for certain amounts of time at a certain amount. So there's lots of things that can go wrong or can require a bit of time to get in place. So the earlier that you can do that, the better. For those who are still studying on, degree programs, undergraduate degrees, and won't have an unconditional offer until later on in the year, we would just say as soon as you have that confirmation of your grades and your classifications of your degree, then get in touch with us to start that visa process as soon as you're able to. And then our next slide is just our email address. So anything that I've touched upon or not touched upon, or anything that you want a bit more information about specifically around your situation or your circumstances, feel free to get in touch with us at our email address there. We will normally get back to you within a day or two at the most. And we're happy to answer any questions. If there's something that we can't answer and maybe it's immigration based, for example, we can point you in the direction of our visa compliance team. But anything that you, obviously, if you've got any questions now, I'm more than happy to ask, but anything that you think of in the next few days or so, please feel free to contact us there.
Thank you, James.
Actually, we have 3 questions. Oh, sorry, Agata.
Go.
So I thought it would be good to answer them live. Do Irish students classify as international students?
No, so Irish students have the same benefits as a UK home student.
Okay, perfect. Someone is asking what to expect on the interview and how long does it usually take? How specific are the questions?
So the interview can sometimes seem quite daunting, and it's always something that people seem to worry about, and it's probably the least daunting part of the whole process. So, we've looked at your application, we've looked at your portfolio in some cases for some courses, we've read your personal statement, and we're then hopefully inviting you to interview. So we've already seen something that we like or see some potential in the work that you've provided us. So the interview is really meant to be a very informal discussion between you and the interviewer, who is normally one of the program leaders or one of the module leaders, to discuss the work that you've submitted or your personal statement, and just make sure that the course is the right fit for you, that we are the right fit for you, because we're not a traditional university. We're not a huge big campus where you're in a couple of hours a week, and there's lots of societies and clubs and things going on, and it's preparing you for a very professional environment. So we need to make sure that, and you need to make sure that you're coming into this in that headspace. The questions aren't set necessarily. I mean, we have certain things that we ask around, tell us a bit about yourself, tell us a bit about your work or what you've done previously. But the conversation will be directed based on your responses to those questions, by the work that you've submitted. And maybe Johannes would like to jump on at the end of this as well. But generally, we're trying to just converse with you and find out a bit more about you and make sure that there is a right fit for you to come to us and for us to say, yes, you're the right type of person to come onto the program.
I totally agree with that. And I sometimes think that even the word interview is maybe not the right one, because it's more about a conversation. It's an opportunity for us to get to know you, but also it's an opportunity for you to get to know us a little bit better as well. So it's not just us asking questions from you, it's also an opportunity for you to ask questions about the courses that we deliver, or how we do things here, or what the college is all about. So think about it much more like a conversation rather than you being, it certainly isn't an interrogation where we're trying to ask you trick questions, or whether you know the history of fashion, or who the certain people in certain jobs are, or what is that they specifically do. It's much more about you than anything else.
Yeah, I think historically, going back 15, 20 years ago, maybe, you'd be required to reel off historical facts and data that you looked up online to make sure that you've done enough research. But actually, that's not relevant now. We want to see that you are the right fit for the institution, that you understand what we can offer you, and that we can see what you can offer your other collaborators within the course as well, all of your colleagues. So yeah, it's definitely a discussion rather than an interview, and it's definitely not meant to be scary, and it's definitely not meant to be daunting. It's literally just a conversation to make sure that what we've seen so far on paper translates to you personally, and that we get a good sense of, that you understand what the course is about and what you're coming on to join for the next year or so.
Also,
And
if you're considering, multiple courses, some students are undecided between a couple of masters that we have. It's a good opportunity to drill down a little bit more, to really figure out which of those masters you want to go for. That's why we really want to talk to you face to face.
And also, to add to all that, I think you also can treat that conversation to see if we fit your requirements, because it's a both-way conversation, as James mentioned. So you need to check if actually we are the right institution for you. So don't be scared. Okay. Where can we find cost of programs? They're on the website. So if you go on every single course page, the cost is there under overall course fees, and also under fees and fundings, we explain how to pay for the courses and what is required, which brings me to a question from Elana from the US, and she's got two questions. First one is, she would like to know that since there are no current grants or loans for the courses, if we are accepted to do the program, do we need to pay the course in full after getting accepted, or are there payments split throughout the course? And second question, is it better to apply for a visa before or after we get accepted to the program before the start date? That's a mouthful.
Hey, off you go.
Okay. So in terms of the fees and paying for your course, we do offer installments to our students, and they are termly installments. So for the MA program, there are 4 terms and therefore 4 installments. So what the course fee that applies to you is divided by 4. Students are required to pay a deposit to secure their place initially. So when you're offered your place and you want to accept it, to book and secure that place, you pay your deposit of £3,000. Once you've paid that deposit, you'll be then expected to pay for your first term. Normally, we can accept that up until 6 weeks before the course start date. But for international students who need to get a visa, you need to have paid that first installment and your deposit for us to issue you a CAS for you to then apply for your visa. So, there's this kind of knock-on effect. So once you've accepted your place, the earlier that you can pay your deposit and then pay your first term's installment, the earlier you can then sort your visa out. So that kind of almost answers the second part of your question, whereas you can't apply for a visa before you've had an unconditional offer from us, and you can't do that before you've paid your deposit and your first term's fees. So once we've got that payment of your deposit and your first term fees, we can then look at your CAS, issue you a CAS, which is basically a number that you get from us to say that we've checked all your immigration documents, and that's the number that you're going to need to go onto the UKVI website and apply for your student visa. I hope that's answered it. If that wasn't direct enough, please let me know, and I'll happily run through that again.
I think that's it.
I like those reactions from you guys. It's really cool.
So we also have
just
social media here on the screen, guys. Have a look, check out our Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever you're into. We have most of the channels, and they're a good option for you to check out what the student life looks like, what the students do, how the building is being used, who are the industry speakers coming in. It's all being documented on our social media.
I will
Sandra.
have one more question. How many projects should we add for examples of work?
It will vary. And I mean, you know, if you're coming onto fashion journalism, for example, you might want to submit, you know, 3 or 4 pieces of written work and maybe a couple of other things. If you do photography on the side or you do something else, then, you know, a couple of pieces of those work. Whereas if you're coming onto creative direction or fashion styling, you might have hundreds and hundreds of photos that you want to pick and to show us. I'd say obviously we don't need to see hundreds, but it will vary depending on what you have. So there's no prescriptive way of describing what a portfolio should look like. Some people submit it in the form of like a creative Instagram account that they keep. Some have a blog, some manage a website, some have a traditional portfolio where they're taking pictures of work that they've produced. So it will vary and it will depend on the kind of format that you have. But, you know, a good we just need the ability to see what you can produce. If we can see any kind of thinking or pivoting in terms of how you've come up with ideas or concepts, that's always really helpful. Things that have gone wrong and why you've decided to go off on another tangent. All of those things are really helpful for us to see. So if we got something and we didn't feel like it was enough, we would always come back to you and say, actually, have you got a bit more of this type of work? So don't feel like we're only going to judge you on what you submit and that's your only chance. If we felt it wasn't enough, we would just ask for more. So there's no really kind of wrong or right answer with that.
So yeah, I think this takes us to the end of this session. It's been longer than we expected. It usually is, to be honest. But thank you for all of your questions. Thank you for being involved and being in the session today. Sorry, I'm just looking at the question. There was still about the luxury brand management with Richmond. Yes, it is a dual degree, the UK and the US degree, whereas all the other ones are the UK degrees. Sorry, that's a very quick interlude. But yeah, we're moving on. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you're going to have a great rest of the day or the evening. We're not sure where you're joining us from, but we hope, as always, that you are very international. And, you know, if you need anything, drop us an email at admissions. You can also DM us on any of the social media. Maybe give us a second on social media to catch your question and reply to you, because we don't always look there every single day. And you can also come and visit the college. You can schedule a tour, and we're going to have plenty more online sessions that you can join and find out more questions. But we genuinely hope we're going to see you in our admissions pipeline very soon and meet you at interviews. So thank you so much for your attention today and for your time. Thank you, Johannes. Thank you, James. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you very much. Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.